The Sacramento sky was ablaze with sunset hues as Eric Porter drove home, seeking solace from the workday. Soft radio melodies accompanied him, a stark contrast to the city's hustle. Suddenly, flashing lights and a siren shattered the calm. Officer Bradley Larson, mid-30s, emerged from his cruiser, badge gleaming, confidence radiating. License and registration. Larson's voice was curt, laced with authority. Eric complied, his movements deliberate, his calm demeanor masking the officer's intense scrutiny. "Know why I pulled you over?" Larson's tone hinted at something beyond a routine stop. "Not entirely sure," Eric replied, polite yet firm. "I thought I slowed down in time." Larson fixated on the license. "You're not from around here, are you?" His suspicion was palpable. "I moved here a few months ago," Eric stated. Larson's questions intensified, transcending the traffic violation. Eric sensed the rising tension, his composure unwavering. "Where were you headed in such a hurry?" Larson probed. "Just going home," Eric answered, his steadiness unnerving the officer. Larson's perception of Eric had shifted. The stop was no longer routine. Larson, his authority challenged, ordered, "Step out of the car." Eric's grip tightened momentarily, his face betraying nothing. "Is there a specific reason, officer?" His tone was measured. "I asked you to step out of the car. Don't make this harder than it has to be." The veiled threat hung in the air. Eric exited the vehicle. Larson's gaze swept over his tailored suit, his polished shoes, details that seemed to fuel the officer's suspicion. "Hands where I can see them," Larson commanded. Eric complied, his movements deliberate. "Is there something specific you're looking for, officer?" Larson smirked. "Just routine. We've had some incidents around here. Can't be too careful." Eric met his gaze. "Incidents involving men in business suits driving sedans? Or does this have more to do with something else?" The question struck a nerve. "Watch your tone," Larson warned, his voice hardening. "I'm simply asking a question," Eric countered, his quiet firmness unsettling the officer. Larson invaded Eric's space, his voice dropping to a near growl. "You seem awfully familiar with how this works. You got something to hide?" Eric paused. "No, officer. I just believe in being clear about the reasons for an interaction like this. Transparency, you know." Larson scoffed, his composure slipping. "You seem pretty confident," he muttered, "like you think you know what's going to happen next." Eric tilted his head slightly. "Confidence isn't the issue here, officer. Respect is." The air crackled. Larson, now defensive, struggled to regain control. This wasn't unfolding as expected. Doubling down, Larson's hand instinctively moved towards his weapon. "Turn around. Place your hands on the hood. I need to check for weapons." "Weapons?" Eric's tone was incredulous, yet calm. "Do I look like someone who's carrying a weapon?" Larson's jaw tightened. "I'm not going to ask you again." Eric hesitated, then, without a word, complied. Larson's search was thorough, invasive, an assertion of dominance. "You're clean," Larson conceded, sounding grudging, irritated. Eric turned, his expression steady, his eyes sharp. "Of course I am," he said simply. "Now, officer, if you're done—" "I'm not done," Larson snapped, his voice rising, betraying his need for control. "You seem to know a lot about what I can and can't do. Care to explain why?" Eric's arms remained folded, his posture relaxed despite the palpable tension. "I've had my fair share of interactions with law enforcement," he stated. "Let's just say I've learned a lot over the years." Larson's eyes narrowed. "That so? You a lawyer or something?" Eric's faint smile held a wealth of meaning. "Or something." The ambiguity further agitated Larson. He closed the distance, his voice a low growl. "Listen, you think you're smarter than me? Think you can talk your way out of this?" Eric met his gaze, unflinching. "I don't think anything, officer. I just believe in fairness, and so far I'm not seeing much of it here." The words hung like a challenge, and Larson took the bait. "Fairness? You think fairness is what this is about? People like you always... He stopped abruptly, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. People like me? Eric's voice was soft, yet charged. Larson recoiled, realizing he'd crossed a line. You know what I mean, he muttered, his conviction fading. I think I do, Eric replied quietly, his calmness now razor sharp. And I think we both know this interaction stopped being about a traffic violation a long time ago. Larson was speechless, uncertain how to proceed. The power dynamic had shifted, leaving him on unstable ground. Eric's steady voice broke the silence. Officer, I think it's time you know who I am. Larson's irritation flickered. I don't care who you are, he retorted, though a crack in his tone betrayed him. Eric reached into his pocket, his movements slow and deliberate. I'm reaching for my badge, he said calmly, watching Larson's hand twitch near his holster. No need for theatrics. I want you to see it. The words hung, pregnant with unspoken implications. Larson's eyes followed Eric's hand as he revealed a gleaming badge. Eric Porter, Eric stated, his tone casual yet commanding. Head of Internal Affairs, Sacramento Division. Larson froze, his face paling. He stared at the badge, then back at Eric, searching for a sign of a joke. There was none. Internal Affairs? Larson repeated, his voice cracking. Yes, Eric confirmed, sparing him the effort. I oversee officer conduct. My job is to ensure that the people wearing this badge uphold the integrity and values it's meant to represent. Larson stumbled back, his confidence evaporating. The weight of his authority suddenly felt unbearable. Eric stepped forward, closing the space. Do you know what the most troubling part of this interaction has been, Officer Larson? His voice was calm yet piercing. Larson was silent, a deer caught in headlights. It's not the profiling, Eric continued, though that's bad enough. It's not the baseless escalation either. It's the fact that you've done all of this without even realizing who you were talking to. You assumed that I wouldn't know my rights, that I wouldn't understand the laws you're sworn to uphold. Larson's lips parted, but no sound emerged. And why? Eric pressed, his gaze unwavering. Because I didn't fit your idea of someone deserving respect? His words were not delivered in anger, but as a profound indictment. And that's not just a problem for me, officer. That's a problem for everyone you encounter in this uniform. Larson's shoulders sagged, the weight of Eric's words crushing him. Eric stepped back, allowing Larson a moment to compose himself. Here's what's going to happen, he said, his voice firm. You're going to take a step back, return my documents, and think very carefully about what you say next. Larson hesitated, visibly debating whether to resist or comply. Eric's voice dropped slightly, adding an unspoken weight to his words. You're going to hear from me again, not as a driver you stopped on the side of the road, but as the man tasked with deciding whether you're fit to wear that badge. Larson swallowed hard, his face flushed with a mix of shame and fear. His hands trembled as he returned Eric's license and registration. Eric took them in silence, tucking them into his wallet. He turned toward his car, pausing with his hand on the door handle. He looked back at Larson, his gaze unwavering. Remember this, Officer Larson, Eric said, his voice carrying the weight of a fundamental truth. The badge doesn't make you better than anyone. It makes you accountable to everyone. As Eric slid into his car and drove off, Larson remained standing in the fading light, his confidence shattered, his future hanging precariously in the balance. For Eric, the encounter was far from over. It replayed in his mind not as an isolated incident, but as a stark reminder of a systemic problem. Larson was not an anomaly, but a symptom. The next morning, in his office at the Sacramento Police Department's Internal Affairs Division, Eric reviewed Officer Bradley Larson's file. It revealed a pattern: minor complaints, excessive stops, vague misunderstandings, issues that had been consistently swept under the rug. Eric leaned back, contemplating the broader implications. This was not about punishing one officer. It was about addressing a culture that enabled such behavior. His thoughts were interrupted by his assistant, Linda, who entered with a stack of reports. "Morning, Mr. Porter. Here's a summary of last month's misconduct cases. Chief Daniels also wanted me to remind you about the department review next week." Eric nodded, taking the files. "Thanks, Linda. Can you also schedule a meeting with Chief Daniels for this afternoon? There's something I need to discuss with him." Linda sensed the gravity in his tone. "Of course," she replied and quietly left the room. Eric turned back to Larson's file, his focus now on a larger issue. This was about more than one man and one traffic stop. It was about dismantling the blue wall of silence and fostering a culture of accountability from the top down. That afternoon, Eric met with Chief Daniels, a seasoned veteran. As Eric recounted the details of the traffic stop, Daniels listened intently. "I could have dismissed it as just another bad interaction," Eric said, his voice steady and resolute. "But that would be a mistake. Larson's behavior isn't an isolated incident. It's a reflection of how much work we still have to do." Daniel sighed. "This isn't the first time Larson's name has come up," he admitted, "but we've always handled it internally, quietly." "And that's the problem," Eric countered. "Quiet doesn't fix anything. Quiet lets it keep happening. It's time to be loud." Daniels met his gaze, the weight of the conversation heavy between them. "What are you proposing?" "A department-wide review," Eric stated firmly. "Not just of individual officers, but of our training, our protocols, our accountability systems. We can't keep sweeping this under the rug. If we don't hold ourselves to a higher standard, how can we expect the community to trust us?" Daniels leaned forward, his hands clasped on the table. "You're going to ruffle some feathers with this." Eric's reply was simple. "Good. It's about time someone did." The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Meetings, interviews, reports. Eric worked tirelessly, compiling data, speaking with officers, and holding public forums to engage directly with the community. The Larson incident became a catalyst for change, forcing the department to confront its deep-seated flaws. Larson faced an internal hearing. Eric, present throughout the proceedings, made no attempt to conceal his involvement. The hearing resulted in a suspension, but Eric knew that true justice extended beyond mere punishment. It was about preventing future abuses of power. Months later, Eric stood at a podium, addressing a diverse audience of officers, city officials, and community members. His speech centered not on blame, but on shared responsibility, the collective duty to build a system that served everyone. "Justice isn't just about catching the bad guys," Eric declared, his voice resonating with conviction. "It's about ensuring that those sworn to protect and serve do so with integrity, fairness, and respect for everyone they encounter. That's the badge I believe in, and that's the badge we're building here together." The applause was thunderous, a testament to the power of his words. But for Eric, this was not a moment of triumph, but a call to action. As he stepped down from the podium, he scanned the faces in the crowd, some skeptical, some hopeful, but all engaged. He understood that lasting change would not happen overnight, but progress had begun. If this story resonates with you, share it. Let's ignite conversations that matter, conversations that pave the way for a more just and equitable society.